Your trauma is not your business plan, but your healing could be welcome to the Soft Girl Era podcast, where we unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom we deserve without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French, and I am your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share with you the insights from a conversation that has fundamentally changed the way I understand the relationship between healing and success. I sat down with Linsay Hill, a healer, a truth teller, and a woman whose life's work is nothing short of revolutionary. Linsay is breaking generational cycles of trauma for Black women, rewriting the narrative that says we must carry pain in silence, and proving that choosing yourself is not selfish, it is sacred. Her work is transforming lives, reshaping how we think about worthiness, and dismantling the lie that healing is separate from ambition. She is making the world a better place by reminding Black women that we deserve love, safety, and success, not in spite of our pain, but because we refuse to let it define us. And what Lindsay shared with me stopped me in my tracks. She said, healing is not a detour from your ambition, it is the most strategic business move you can make as a Black professional or entrepreneur. Let that land for a moment. Because we have been taught, conditioned really, to separate our trauma from our titles, to leave it at the door, to push through, to be strong. But here's what Lindsay is saying and what the data is screaming at us. When you've survived molestation, emotional abuse, and years of being told directly or indirectly that you don't deserve love, that belief system doesn't stay in your personal life. It quietly shapes every business decision you make. Think about it. Unhealed trauma can show up as underpricing your services because deep down, you don't believe you're worthy of more. It can show up as staying in toxic workplaces or partnerships because chaos feels familiar. It can show up as overworking and people pleasing in your career to earn the love and validation you never got as a child. And for Black women especially, this is happening against a backdrop where the system is already stacked against us. Reports show that Black women are experiencing rising unemployment, wage gaps, and loss of DEI protections, even when we are highly educated and overqualified. When the external system is unjust and your internal system is wounded, the cost to your career and business is massive. So here's the unexpected perspective Lindsay offered, and I want you to really sit with this. Every time you choose to breathe into your healing, set a boundary, or leave an abusive situation, you are not stepping away from success. You are upgrading the ceiling on what's possible for you, your business, and even your lineage. Your healing is a leadership strategy, a wealth strategy, and a legacy strategy. Now, let me share with you Lindsay's story because it's in the specifics of her journey that we see the universal truth so many of us carry. From a very young age, Lindsay learned to see herself as less than. She was molested by a cousin who, in many ways, represented everything her family and the world seemed to celebrate: beautiful, magnetic, the one everyone gravitated toward. In that dynamic, Lindsay internalized the belief that she was not worthy of love or protection. That belief followed her into adulthood. She started chasing love through relationships with men who mirrored that same harm. When she met the man who would become her husband, it felt different at first, more subtle, more polished. But over time, it became a slow grooming process. He cheated, lied, and manipulated in ways that made her feel like she deserved the mistreatment. For 8 years, Lindsay lived in a marriage where she truly believed that abuse was her portion. The breaking point came when he lied to his job and told them she was pregnant. that she had lost the babies after delivery and tried to leverage that lie to almost embezzle $10,000. She wasn't pregnant at all. When Linsay saw the extent of his deception, something in her snapped, not in a chaotic way, but in a deeply clarifying way. She realized, if I stay, I am agreeing with this lie about who I am and what I deserve. Leaving that marriage wasn't neat or linear. Her healing has been messy. There were days of confusion, grief, and second guessing. But along the way, a mentor looked her in the eyes and said words no one had ever said to her with that much conviction: "You deserve love." That sentence became the foundation for a new kind of life. Now, as Linsay builds her work and steps into her calling, she knows that every boundary she sets, every time she refuses to tolerate emotional violence, she's not just protecting herself, she's breaking generational cycles of pain and trauma. She's healing for the version of herself who thought abuse was normal, and for the ancestors who never had the safety or language to name what was happening to them. That's why Linsay says healing is not separate from our professional lives. The woman she is becoming, one who knows she deserves to be loved, valued, and safe, is the same woman who can negotiate contracts, walk away from exploitative partnerships, and build businesses that don't run on self betrayal. Let me give you three key insights from our conversation, insights that I want you to carry with you long after this moment ends. First, your healing is a business asset, not a liability. Doing the inner work, therapy, coaching, somatic healing, spiritual practices um, is not extra or indulgent. It directly impacts how you price your services, how you negotiate, how you hire, and how you lead. When you believe you deserve love and respect, you stop building careers and companies that run on your self sacrifice. Second, unhealed trauma quietly writes your business plan if you don't. If you grew up believing you were undeserving, that belief can show up as staying in underpaying jobs, tolerating discrimination, or accepting inequitable deals because you're afraid this is the best you'll get. In a world where Black women already earn significantly less than white men and are pushed out of higher paying sectors, your unchallenged beliefs about worth can make an already unjust system even more damaging. Third, choosing yourself is a generational strategy, not just a personal decision. Every time you say, I will not accept abuse at home, at work, or in business, you're not being selfish. You're setting a new standard for your children, your community, and even your ancestors. For Black women, who are often the backbone of families, workplaces, and movements, healing is how we quietly shift what is considered normal for those who come after us. Now, let me share with you three stories that illustrate exactly how healing and professional power are inseparable. The first is the story of Tiffany R. Warren, a seasoned Black woman executive in the advertising and media industry, known for her work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. In a climate where Black women's employment has dropped sharply and DEI roles are being cut, Tiffany has had to navigate systemic devaluation while continuing to advocate for herself and others. She's been operating in an industry where Black women are often rendered invisible or pigeonholed into DDEI roles that are under resourced and first on the chopping block. Employment among Black women dropped by roughly 318,000 jobs between February and June of 2025, reflecting a structural devaluing of their labor and leadership. But here's what Tiffany did: she reframed her DEI work as core business strategy, not a side initiative, tying inclusion directly to innovation, creativity, and revenue. She built strong networks and mentorship pipelines for other Black women, ensuring they were not isolated in hostile or in different workplaces. She used her platform to publicly name the systemic issues Black women face: pay gaps, stalled promotions, and job losses, and push for accountability. As a result, she was elevated to high impact leadership roles where she influences not just hiring, but culture and policy. She helped shift conversations around DEI from nice to have to essential, even as many companies backpedal on their commitments. Tiffany demonstrated that when Black women stand firmly in their value, they can demand more than symbolic roles. They can shape the agenda. Tiffany's journey reflects years of being in rooms where decisions were made about representation, storytelling, and opportunity, while often being one of the few Black women present. The emotional labor of carrying both her own career and the hopes of others required deep internal resilience. Like many Black women who have experienced invalidation or trauma, she had to confront the internalized belief that she should be grateful for any seat at the table rather than designing her own. Her work has helped reframe Black women's presence in corporate America from token or expendable to strategic and indispensable. She offers a powerful model for Black women professionals and entrepreneurs. When you stop accepting invisibility, you create new possibilities, not just for yourself, but for an entire ecosystem. The second story comes from the California Black Women's Collective Empowerment Institute, which released the 2025 State of Black Women in California report. This report documents how Black women are both driving progress and disproportionately carrying the weight of poverty, housing instability, and health disparities. Black women make up only 6.6% of California's female population, but are overrepresented in poverty and housing instability. They earn about 60 cents for every dollar paid to white men, often spending half their income on housing or childcare. The collective used comprehensive data to validate Black women's lived experiences, naming clearly that the issue is not a lack of effort or resilience, but systemic inequity. They created programs like She Works California, the Holly J. Mitchell Girls Empowerment Leadership Institute, and supporting our sisters to provide skills, job access, confidence building, and leadership development specifically for Black women and girls. They framed healing and empowerment as both personal and structural, offering community, mentorship, and practical resources alongside advocacy for policy change. As a result, more Black women are gaining access to jobs, building confidence, and stepping into leadership roles through targeted programs. The collective produced a clear roadmap for what needs to change: fair pay, affordable housing and childcare, health equity, and leadership pipelines that match Black women's contributions. The collective emerged from generations of Black women in California who have held families, schools, and communities together while being systematically under resourced. The report is not just numbers, it is a reflection of a long history of Black women being told to be strong while their pain is ignored. By centering Black women's voices and experiences, the collective is saying, "We see the harm, we believe you, and we're building something different." This work shifts the narrative from individual blame to structural truth. It models how healing is both internal and collective. As Black women gain support, resources, and affirmation, they are better positioned to lead in business, politics, and community life. The third story is the 2025 job crisis and Black women's exit from traditional work. Across the US, Black women are being pushed out of stable employment at alarming rates. 42% of Black women reported job insecurity or layoffs in the past year, the highest among all racial and gender groups. Black women have lost hundreds of thousands of jobs since early 2025, while men, especially white men, have gained jobs, widening the employment gap. DEI departments and roles where many Black women worked have been dismantled after political pressure, erasing leadership pathways and protections. Black women's unemployment rate has risen to 7.5%, higher than white women's and above what is considered full employment, despite Black women having the highest labor force participation rate of any female group in 2024. But here's what's happening: many Black women are turning to entrepreneurship, side businesses, and consulting as a way to reclaim control over their income and work environments. Community organizations and advocates are calling out the structural nature of the crisis and pushing for policy responses, mentorship, and support systems tailored to Black women. Black women are increasingly seeking trauma informed spaces, therapists, coaches, networks, where they can process the grief of job loss and the betrayal of systems that claim to value equity. As a result, there's been a visible rise in Black women led businesses and creative enterprises, even as traditional employment opportunities shrink. There's more public acknowledgement of the mental health toll. Black women report depression, anxiety, and hopelessness linked to job loss and housing insecurity. This has opened up more honest conversations about healing, not just hustling. For decades, Black women were told that if they got the degrees, worked twice as hard, and played by the rules, they would be safe. The current job crisis has shattered that illusion. Many who believed they had finally reached stability are now facing layoffs, pay cuts, and the dismantling of DEI structures that once offered a measure of protection. For women carrying personal histories of abuse, rejection, or abandonment, this systemic betrayal can feel like confirmation of old wounds. I'm not valued, I'm disposable. Yet within this crisis, many are choosing a different narrative. Instead of internalizing the devaluation, they are asking, what would it look like to build work that honors my worth, my healing, and my boundaries? This shift is changing how younger Black women see their options. Not only get a job and stay no matter what, but build or choose work that doesn't replicate abuse. The conversation around Black women in work is expanding to include mental health, trauma, and the need for workplaces and businesses that do not rely on our silence or self neglect. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Where in your work or relationships are you still agreeing to be treated like you don't deserve love? And what is one small, courageous boundary you can set this week to tell a different story about who you are? Because here's the truth: your trauma is not your business plan, but your healing could be. Every time you choose yourself, you are not abandoning your ambition, you are reclaiming it. You are not being selfish, you are being strategic. You are not stepping back, you are leveling up. So this week, I want you to identify one place at home, at work, or in your business where you feel that familiar knot of self betrayal in your body. And I want you to choose one concrete action that honors your worth. Say no. Ask for what you need. Raise your prices. Apply for the role you've been talking yourself out of. Schedule that therapy or coaching session. Because every time you breathe into your healing and choose yourself, you're not just changing your life, you're breaking cycles. You're rewriting what love and success look like for those who come after you. Your healing is your power, your softness is your strength, and you deserve love. Now go build a life, a career, and a legacy that reflects that truth.